Hey everybody, it's your girl Neil. I'm in the tiny studio today, and it is a beautiful, beautiful Monday evening, and I'm just sitting here crocheting. I felt inspired today because it was such a beautiful, beautiful sunshiny day, and I felt inspired to hop into the tiny studio and to get some work done. And I just decided I would come in here and I would talk to you for a little bit. So I hope that you are having a really, really great day. I'm working on my baked sweet potato project, and I believe that I probably showed you this project in its infancy and then in its toddlerhood. And right now, I believe that we're going through the teen years because she will be done in probably about 3 more weeks. And this is the baked sweet potato project. Of course, you know that the orange obviously represents the sweet potato, and then the browns represent the brown sugar and nutmeg and cinnamon. This gold here is the beautiful melted butter, and the white is the whipped cream. So this is my baked sweet potato project, and I'll have this when it's ready. When I'm ready to get put it in, when I'm ready to sell it, it will be on my blog. And the name of my blog is called Simply Nails Tiny Studio, and I'm on WordPress. I will put the link in the description box at the end of this video. So I'll let you know when I'm done. Hopefully I'll be finished with this Lapcan by the end of May. And this is May 1, 2023. And as you know, my goal for this year is to, well, my goal period is to complete any project that I start in the tiny studio. It's to complete projects. So if I start a project, my goal is to have it done within at least a month or so time frame. Of course, things happen, and like I had the excuse me, like I had the tennis elbow back in 2022, and that kind of threw everything off for me because this was supposed to be done by Thanksgiving, but I had the tennis elbow or the knitter's elbow, so I wasn't able to complete it then. But my goal is to try to keep things. I don't want the tiny studio is tiny. So I don't want a whole lot of clutter in the tiny studio. If it's a project that I'm working on, I want to just go ahead and finish it, complete it, and just move on. That's my plan. So my plan is not to keep a whole lot of unfinished whips in the tiny studio. My plan is to finish everything that I start. That is the goal for 2023, to finish all projects once they begin. That is my plan. Um, Recently we heard that the accuser of Emmitt Till, Caroyln Bryant, that she recently passed away. And if you remember the story, she told her husband and her brother-in-law that 14-year-old Emmitt Till whistled at her and, said some provocative things to her on his visit to her store. And this little lie cost Emmitt Till his young life. And caused a national discussion about the way Black people or Black Americans are treated in this country. Caroyln Bryant's husband and brother-in-law admitted to kidnapping Emmitt out of his uncle's house, Uncle Moses' home, in the middle of the night. They took him to a second location where they tortured him beat him, and after they tortured and beat him, they shot him, cut his private parts off, stuffed them into his mouth, then got a wire and hung a giant commercial fan around Emmitt's neck and tossed him into the river. When Emmitt's body was found, they tried to, the officials of that town tried to suppress the evidence because it was horrible. But when Emmitt Till's mother saw her son's body, Mamie Till Mosley, she decided that everyone should see his body, her son's body. And Ebony and Jet Magazine published those pictures so that we could all see what happens to young men in the South, especially back then in that time period. My father, who was a young boy at that time when Emmitt Till was kidnapped and murdered, told me, and he was from Mississippi as well, he told me how he felt and what the culture was down there in Mississippi when it came to blacks and whites. Being that Caroyln Bryant lied about what really happened that day, the thing that bothers me the most is that she wasn't held accountable for her actions. Her husband and brother-in-law were acquitted of what they did. And eventually they went to a magazine, I want to say Life magazine, and told their story where they basically confessed to everything. But had they even confessed during the trial, they probably would not have been convicted anyway. Because the culture in the South is that black people are, less than white people, that we're animals, and that I guess we deserve to be tortured and we deserve to have our private parts stuffed in our mouths for whatever the reason. And the thing is, Caroyln Bryant, she lied and she cost this young man his life. Caroyln Bryant was the original Karen. The original Karen. And even though evidence has come out to prove that there was a warrant issued for her arrest almost 60 years ago, she wasn't arrested. I think they found that warrant in some paperwork or documents that was kept over from the old courthouse. I think these papers, these warrant papers were found maybe about a year or so ago, and there was this discussion that she should be arrested, even though she was how old? I want to say she was 88 or whatever, almost 90 years old. The consensus was that she should still be arrested and held accountable for what she did. But of course, she was able to live to 88 years old, and she was able to die on her own, on her own fruition, or on her own timetable. She was able to live a full life after this whole incident, carrying the blood of Emmitt Till on her hands. When she died, on my social media, all I put on there was a picture of Emmitt Till and his mother, Mamie Till Mosley. That's it. I didn't even put Caroyln Bryant on my news feed. I did not post her name. I did not post her face because I did not want to give her that much. I didn't want to give her any type of credit. I didn't want to give her, I didn't want to give her any type of shine whatsoever, because she was responsible for something that traumatized black people, traumatized a whole generation of people, traumatized generations to come. She traumatized us by what she did. by what her husband did, by what her brother-in-law did. And I always felt that she should be held accountable for that. This lady, Caroyln Bryant, she actually got away with murder. She really got away with murder. How do you get away with murder in this country? In Caroyln Bryant's case, by being a white woman. That's how you get that's how you get away with murder. Excuse me. And it's really sad. I had to reach down and pick up a skein of yarn. It's really sad that everything went down the way that it did. You know, in recent years, Carolyn has spoken on this issue with a book publisher and supposedly, allegedly told this book publisher that, she was sorry, that she didn't mean to do what she did or what was done. That's what she said, allegedly. But see, what we needed her to do at the time was to make a public apology, to say this publicly to the Till family. That's what we wanted. We wanted a full out apology to the Till family. And to be honest, what we really wanted was for her to be arrested because no one was held accountable for what happened to Emmitt Till. No one. No one was held accountable. Not one single person. And let me say this, when it comes to black bodies, murdered black bodies here in the South, when it comes to that, the lynchings that has occurred here in the South where I live, there's no accountability for it. None. And Caroyln Bryant, she was the last vestige of what could have been accountability. But no one wanted to do it. No one wanted to do it. No one wanted to arrest her. No one wanted to hold her accountable for what she did. And that's why I didn't post her picture on my social media. I didn't feel it was necessary. I did. What I felt was necessary was to post Mamie Till Mosley and her son Emmitt. That's what I felt was what I should do in that moment. I was to honor them because they went through a living hell, a nightmare come true. I cannot even imagine what that little boy was thinking when he was snatched out of his uncle's bed that night. I cannot even imagine the terror that he felt being with these two racist, murdering white men in that barn alone with them. I cannot imagine how he felt. I cannot imagine that. All I know is that Caroyln Bryant has to answer for what she did. And since the justice system in the United States is apparently blind to certain genders and colors or ethnicities or nationalities of its citizens, then that justice will have to come from the universe. And of course, I won't see it, you won't see it, but Caroyln Bryant will see it, and she will feel it indeed. But we have to remember and be mindful of the fact that when we are discussing Caroyln Bryant, that we make sure that we say Emmitt Till's name. Every time you say Caroyln Bryant's name, Emmitt Till's name should fall out your mouth just soon after. Mrs. Mamie Till Mosley's name should fall right out your mouth as well. We don't want to give Caroyln Bryant any, we don't want to give her any type of honor, any type of shine. Not at all. When we speak about Caroyln Bryant, we need to be speaking about Emmitt Till in the same breath. In the same exact breath. And it's like I said, it's really sad that this country and that the state of Mississippi refused to prosecute this woman who lied on this 14-year-old boy who was visiting from the city of Chicago. He didn't know what the hell he was walking into coming down here to visit his family. He didn't know. He lived in Chicago. His mother tried to educate him and get him prepared for what the South was really all about, but he didn't know. He had no idea that his first visit to the South would be his last. And to say that this little boy was flirting with this woman is insane. It's simply insane. But see, that is how Black people were treated in this country. Nobody cares about Black people, Black women, Black men, Black children. I saw this video. It was an experiment. It's on social media, and I think it came from ABC News. I'm not sure, but you can look it up. There was a little Black girl was left standing in the middle of, I don't know, in the middle of a street, not in the middle of in the middle of a sidewalk, and she was left there alone while hordes and hordes of people walked by, back and forth, back and forth. The little girl, little Black girl, just standing there alone while everybody walked by. Not one person came up to this little Black girl and asked her if she was okay, if she was safe, where was her mother, where was her father, was she lost? Nothing. They just left her there. Then the people who were conducting this experiment removed the Black girl and put a little white girl there in her place. And what do you think happened? White people started coming over to the little girl, asking her was she lost, is she okay, asking her where her mother was, all kind of stuff. There were so many people that walked up to this little white girl to ask her what was going on, why was she by herself. But moments before, when it was a little black girl there, nobody said anything. Nobody asked the little Black girl, was she lost? Where's her family? Nobody asked her anything. They just left her there. Go figure. you have to find that clip, that video clip. It's so sad, but it's so real and true because that is how this country sees black people. And when people say racism is dead, there's no such thing. I have to say, look at that. Yeah, it is. Little black girls, little black boys, you know, the progeny of black people. This country don't care about us. They don't care about our kids. That little experiment proved it. That's what racism is really all about. That's what it's really truly all about. It's about us as black people being treated less than. Nobody cared if that little black girl was lost. Nobody cared if that little black girl was alone. Nobody asked her what her feelings were. Nobody asked her who did she belong to, because nobody cared. And that's how I feel about the state of Mississippi and Emmitt Till, or the state of Mississippi and all these other southern states who have all these bodies on their books, all these invisible names on their books, all these names in their newspapers dating back to the late 19th century. All of those names of people that were lynched. All of these southern states have blood on their hands. Blood, I tell you, blood. All these people, all these southern states, all these little counties and cities and nooks and crannies, all these people who burned down black towns, all the states that harbored murderers who burned down black towns and flooded them out and turned them into lakes like Lake Lanier. All these little cities and townships and counties who just sat back and watched as whole riots. Oh, I'm not even going to call them race riots. White mobs come into black towns and destroy them, burn them down to the ground, murder men, women, and children. All these states have blood on their hands. And I really don't care to hear anybody like someone like DeSantis break out and say, oh, we don't want to discuss such and such a thing because it's gonna make some people feel bad. You should feel bad. You should feel bad. You should feel bad. You should be ashamed. And feeling bad and feeling ashamed is what should make you want to implement some type of change. That's what feeling bad is supposed to make you do. It's supposed to make you feel reflective about the past and hopefully bring about change for the future. That's what's supposed to be happening. That's how it should go down. If you feel bad enough, if you feel shame enough, do something. Do something. Do something to make things better. But this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm not surprised that Caroyln Bryant was able to die at home or die in a hospital or die in hospice on her own terms or whatever. I'm not surprised about that because that's typical. That's typical of how America treats its own and how America treats black people or people of color. Our feelings don't matter. When it comes to justice for our people, it's just not there. And for me, Caroyln Bryant is the perfect picture of that because Emmitt Till did not get any justice. Emmitt Till's mother, Mamie Tills Mosley, had to bury her child, see her child look the way he did, look almost unrecognizable. She had to see the child that she gave birth to look virtually unrecognizable in that box that came back from the heart of Mississippi. So no, Caroyln Bryant gets no love from me. She shouldn't get any love from you. And then on top of that, it should be a reminder to all of us, a reminder to all of us that things have not changed. No, it should be a reminder to us that while things change, there are some things that remains the same. And the fact that Caroyln Bryant was able to live out the rest of her life without being held accountable for the heinous death of Emmitt Till, that should be something that we talk about, that we discuss, and that we never, ever forget. Because at this point, all of our children, all of our children could very well become another Emmitt Till. And because Carolyn wasn't held accountable, because she falls into a long line of people who were not held accountable for the atrocities visited upon them by white people in this country. Because of that, America is always going to have a stain of blood on top of his head, along with the fact that slavery or the enslavement of a whole group of people occurred in this country, along with the massacre of the people who are indigenous to this land. That occurred too. So America has a lot of stuff on top of it. So when I see certain things happening in this country, it's like Malcolm X said, the chickens have come home to roost. And what Malcolm say? He said, I he said, I was never sad when chickens came home to roost because that means it's the end of the day. Right? We get ready to end this day and start a new one. He said chickens coming home to roost don't make anybody sad. They make them glad. And America has chickens coming home to roost right now as we speak. And hopefully these chickens coming home to roost will open the eyes of people who are justice loving, who want to see the end of white supremacy, and who believe in equality for all peoples. So that's what I'm thinking about here in the tiny studio today. I hate to bring our time together, in a tiny studio on such a note, but I could not I could not let another day pass without talking about the death of Caroyln Bryant and the significance of it as it relates to the person that she indirectly had murdered. Caroyln Bryant was a murderer. Caroyln Bryant was a murderer. Caroyln Bryant is a study in how white people of the 20th, 19th, and 20th centuries got away with murder. She's a perfect study in that. The perfect study. Probably one of the last vestiges of her generation. But I'm sure there are many more just like her walking around every day. I'm sure of that. Or the descendants also of those who sent postcards back to their family and friends of picnics that they took amidst a lynching. Have you ever seen those cards? Those type of postcards? Yeah. And there were children at those type of picnics as well. So I'm sure that some of those peoples and some of their peoples are walking around right now because evil begets evil. I've heard it told. I've heard it said. Evil begets evil. And when we put one person or one group of people above another group of people based on their skin color, that's evil. That's evil. So I'm not going to say that I am happy or that I'm glad that Caroyln Bryant is deceased. I'm not going to say that. No. What I am going to say is that universal justice is real. And there will be universal justice handed down on the head of Caroyln Bryant for what she did to Emmitt Till. So that's all I have to say about that today. I am going to continue to work on this lapkin, my baked sweet potato project, and I was able to untangle some of the yarn, but I had to do some cutting, and then see, look, there it is. So now I need to make a magic knot, and I have some yarn that I cut from the skein. Okay, this is it right here that I'm going to use. And I'm just going to keep cutting. And, it's sad though when you have a skein of yarn that is not right and you have to go in and you have to do all this cutting and making these, I call it the magic knot, making all these magic knots and to continue your work, but it's all good. And I love to crochet anyhow. So you just do what? You just get it done. Every skein of yarn is not going to be perfect. Just like every person that you meet are not going to be perfect. And we cannot expect perfection out of everyone because we are, in fact, not perfect. Okay, so do not hesitate to drop down in the comment section and tell me what you think about this conversation that we're having about Caroyln Bryant, the murderers of Emmitt Till. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what your feelings are, and we can talk about it in the comment section. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up so that the YouTube guys they will know that people are enjoying the content here in the Tiny Studio. And if there's something that you would like for me to talk about or discuss in the Tiny Studio, also let me know. Do not forget to hang out with me on my blog, Simply Nails Tiny Studio, which I will post the link in the description box. So until next time, I will see you later. And I would say keep crocheting. If you're a crocheter, keep crocheting. If you're a knitter, continue to knit. But basically, continue to love everyone as you would continue to love everyone as God loves you. That's it. But let me tell you something else though. No, I'm not going to say that. Keep treating people the way you want to be treated. Exactly. Right? Yes. All right. I'll see you next time here in the Tiny Studio. Bye bye. And I'm sorry for the heavy content today. Maybe next time I'll come into the studio and that will not be on my mind or on my heart, but it was today. Rest in peace, Emmitt Till. Bye bye.